I am honored to be here, guys, with you and share all this information as well. Like Jill said, am I echoing? I've been a nurse for over 21 years, specializing in critical care, ICU, orthopedics, neurosurgery, and trauma. About 10 years ago, I decided to, is that better? I decided to change that from the illness side and the bedside to the wellness side with health and nutrition and how we can take care of our bodies on the front side before we got to that spot. And during this time, I also picked up boxing. Now, I am not like most of you. I did not grow up in the boxing community or watching boxing. Thank you. Go back one. There we go. So boxing for me started about 10 years ago. When I started competing, I entered in weigh-ins and things like that, and I was realizing what we were doing as boxers, not only to our body and for our weight cuts, but for our performance, and we were inhibiting ourselves and our wellness afterwards as well. And most of the time when I was like, why are you doing this? This is how we always do it, and this is how it's done. And I'm like, there's a lot of evidence and science that says we need to change this. So that's where my background in nutrition came into play, specifically for boxing as well, to give back to the community and make an impact. So I'll give you a little depiction on like what nutrition is and what we think it is and what it's not. Using this tree, so if we say this tree is you as a boxer, right? And that tree trunk is your boxing and your training, and that's your strength, and that the rest of the tree and the leaves, that's just everything else in your life. So that's our strength and conditioning, our fighting, our swimming, our running, everything that brings into boxing. Now what we're missing here is people often think that, okay, we're gonna throw in some supplements and we're gonna call this a pretty tree and that's a day. Well, I'm gonna tell you that most of our nutrition should come from whole natural foods and not from supplementation. Supplementation is just going to throw a Band-Aid on a gaping hole that's not going to heal. And if I take this tree and I give it a little stiff jab, what's gonna happen? It's gonna fall over, right? It has no roots to ground it. It's not going to be stable. And if you take that tree branch and you manipulate it all, it's gonna break in two. It's not going to bend and be pliable. So what we need to focus on, just like the mental health we talked about yesterday, is the stuff that we can't see, the stuff underneath the ground. And that is going to be your nutrition, your hydration, and your sleep. And that is what is going to feed you and help that tree grow and increase your performance. But not only that, it's going to help us grow. Like bottom line, we're not going to grow if we don't have that. We are going to be stagnant. We are putting a ceiling on our performance, right? So that's where we need to start focusing on the things that we can't see. Oftentimes, I also hear that nutrition is just a weight cut. And I get this call a lot. Hey, Sarah, I need your help. I've got to fight in X amount of weeks and I have X amount of pounds to lose. My first question is, well, if we lost X amount of pounds last time, why do we need to lose it again? And secondly, if we're cutting our weight during our fight camp, we're impeding our performance. We're trying to increase that training and increase our fighting ability, but we're also decreasing our energy and our ability to recover and our nutrients as well. So we need to work on how we can eat and maintain our fuel, as well as maintain our weight as well. When we don't give our body enough time to lose fat, we are also playing this weight loss game, right, with water. So rapid weight loss versus sustainable fat loss. First of all, you have to have fat to lose. So we have to make sure that we are in the right weight category as well. And that is our right weight class. If we have fat to lose, average fat loss, if you are like pinpoint with your nutrition, is gonna be about 1.5 to 2 pounds a week. So if your fight camp is 10 weeks long and you have 20 pounds to lose, that's gonna mean that you are pinpoint with your nutrition, okay? This is not like you did a really great workout and you pushed yourself hard, so you're gonna grab a crumble cookie on the way home because you're really starving and you earned it, okay? We're not doing any of that. So we need to give ourselves some wiggle room because we are human as well. When you're losing that rapid weight in water, not only are you playing with the dehydration game, which I'm gonna get to in a minute, but you're also losing muscle mass. So we're negating what we're doing in our camp as well, right? We want to gain that muscle and maintain it, but we're losing it because we can't maintain our weight. So we have to give our body ample time to regulate as well. So then we cut our calories during our training, right? Or we're afraid to eat because we need to make that weight on the scale, which is causing us, we're tired, we're cranky, we're irritable, but we're also decreasing our performance, and we're increasing our risk for injury and decreasing our immune system. So there's more apt to be when you come, you're not going to make it through your fight camp because you're going to get sick and you're going to get injured. And this also causes metabolic strain and hormone dysregulation as well. So then we get freaked out about the scale, right? And I see this so often in boxing. I'm not talking about eating disorders, so I'm not talking about anorexia or bulimia. I'm talking about disordered eating and our unhealthy relationship with food, right? We have this fear of carbohydrates. That's a big one. I get this on social media all the time. Camp stuff, and you're taking pictures of yourself, and you're in the sauna, in your sauna suit, trying to sweat out, water weight. Or you have a little tiny plate of food that you're eating, right? We need to change that culture and get a healthier relationship with food, because just how we've always done it is not the right way. And you're also causing metabolic strain on your body as long as mental stress as well. So in the females, we're going to talk about this today, you have your disordered eating, and you have your underfueling of your training, and that can cause amenorrhea or irregular loss of your menstrual cycle. And when we do that, we're also causing osteoporosis. So as females, we have a higher risk of osteoporosis as it is. And this just exponentiates that. So if we are starting this at younger levels and amateurs and younger ages, when our body is growing and we're trying to grow those bones from the beginning, then we're going to see this sooner as well. So you are going to see more stress fractures. And this isn't just females, but it does happen in males as well. But it is more prone in females. And I'm gonna tell you that if you're using hormonal birth controls, you can mask these symptoms as well. So you're not always going to be able to see them. So what we need to do is focus on how we can maintain our weight, right? Now, if you have fat to lose, we want to work on that in between camp. We don't want to wait till that training camp when we are decreasing our training because we are cutting our calories. And we want to work on focusing then on maintaining our weight and improving our performance. So we need to take back the focus of training camp on training, putting on the training camp and stepping away from the scale and focusing solely on what we can do to get that number. And we are all professional athletes in here, most of us, and we should treat our body like that as well, right? We are an athlete all the time, and not just when we enter in that ring or not when we get in that fight camp. So this matters to us on a daily basis. So how do we do this, right? So we do this with calories, yes, but calories are different. And where your calories come from also count. Now, I've heard that there's a big, huge buzz in social media that we need to have high protein diets. Now, I'm going to tell you, as athletes, we are not the general population. We are a separate entity of itself. We are a different forest. There's a forest and the jungle, right? We are different. So we do need protein to maintain our muscles, right? And protein is going to actually burn your body calories eating it, so it is beneficial for us. We also need healthy fats. If we cut away all our fats and say we're going on a low-fat diet, if we cut it lower than our body minimum requirements, we're not going to regulate our hormones, and we're also not going to get all the vitamins and nutrients we need. So there are fat-soluble vitamins, so vitamin A, D, E, and K all need healthy fat as a carrier for our body to absorb them as well. And then we need carbohydrates, and carbohydrates are the main one, guys, and that's most often feared. People who are like, oh my gosh, I had some rice last night, and this morning I gained 5 pounds. And I'm like, you didn't gain 5 pounds, I'm gonna tell you that. But if we're cutting our carbohydrates, we're cutting our energy source. And as athletes, we need about 300 to 500 grams of carbohydrates a day. Your brain takes about 130 grams of carbohydrates just to function. So if you're cutting less than that, which I've seen, we're not even thinking straight. So how do you expect to go in the ring and perform well when you can't even think? So carbohydrates are going to be your grains, your fruits, your vegetables. They're also going to contain fiber, and fiber is not just for your healthy gut bacteria and to make you poop. I'm going to talk about poop. I'm a nurse. So, yes. So but they're also going to regulate your blood sugars, and they're going to help you feel full and satiated. So females, we need about 25 grams of carbohydrate or of fiber a day. Okay, so that is your daily requirement as well, and that's also going to help you with your weight cut because it's going to help you keep feeling fuller. So what does our body do with these carbohydrates? Why do we need so much? So your body takes the carbohydrates and it breaks it down into glycogen, and it stores it in your skeletal muscle and your liver. So you have this fuel tank of carbohydrates, right? But just like your phone might be sitting there and you're not touching it and it's not doing anything, but it's draining the battery, right? And we can't wait till our battery goes into that low power mode as athletes. We need to constantly keep refilling it. And just because you're sitting here and you're not working out in the gym doesn't mean that your body isn't burning calories. Like I said, your brain needs 130 grams of carbohydrates. So right there, you need calories to function. If you have some snacks back there, your body is digesting that food. That is taking calories to burn. So on that cellular level that you can't see, your body is still burning fuel. And if you have more lean muscle mass, like athletes, your metabolism is higher, which causes you to burn more calories at rest. So we have to take that all into account as well. So let's talk about how you fuel your training, right? So I said you have that glycogen stores in that fuel tank in your skeletal muscle in your liver, but I also said that your body is still using that fuel as we go. So even if you wake up in the morning, you still need to eat something before you work out. As athletes, we should never work out fasted. It's not going to burn you more fat. It's not going to increase your calorie burn. Actually, if you eat more, you're going to push harder in training and you're going to burn more calories, right? And you're going to get better results from that training as well. So different training and different, so strength training versus swimming versus running versus sparring all require different calorie allotments in terms of proteins and carbohydrates. But as a general rule of thumb, about an hour before your training, you're gonna want 1 gram per kilogram of carbohydrates. Now, if you have 2 hours before your training, then you're gonna want 2 grams per kilograms with a little bit of protein as a snack. So think like an apple and a piece of cheese. And then if you have 3 hours before, you want 3 grams per kilograms with more protein as well. So the longer out we have, it changes a little bit, but we want to make sure that we get in something, anything, before our training. So this is also going to mean carrying things with you, because how often do you go to the gym and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I gotta go get a car wash from when I get out of here, and then I gotta go pick up the kids. We need to make sure that we have those options available for us, and they can be simple, guys. I'm talking about granola bars, juices, goldfish. Take your kids' squishy toddler food. That works, okay? So it doesn't have to be complicated, but we need to make sure we're fueling before training. Now, if your training sessions are over an hour long, so more than 60 minutes, we need to also put in more carbs and get some more fuel for our tank. This is where sports drinks are going to be appropriate. And guys, sugars are carbs. It's another fear that I hear is that, oh my gosh, I can't have sugars. No, we need sugars, especially as athletes. So within that, for over an hour training, you're gonna want 30 to 60 grams of carbohydrates, but you're also going to want to start to replace those electrolytes. When you lick your sweat or your skin after, it tastes salty, and that is going to be sodium. So a lot of times I have a misconception that we need magnesium for hydration. Yes, you do need magnesium and potassium, but the main one is going to be sodium. So you're gonna want your sports drinks to have over 400 milligrams of sodium. And then I have people who freak out because they're like, oh my gosh, sodium's gonna cause me to retain water, and I don't want that either. But I'm gonna tell you that one pickle spear is going to be 310 milligrams of sodium. So this isn't much more than having a pickle. But these are the 3 that I do recommend most for my clients. You've got Hoist, you have your Body Armor, Flash IB, and your Gator Light. Those are going to be all that have about 25 to 30 grams of carbohydrates, and they're also going to have over 400 milligrams of sodium in them. And then after training, we used to think that This is like the old school thinking, right? We had that anabolic window, and within that 60 minutes after a workout, we had to get in our protein, or else we weren't going to recover our muscles, because the anabolic window is closed and it is shut and we are done. Well, that's no longer valid science. If you are getting enough protein throughout your day, you are going to have a longer anabolic window, and it's probably just not even going to close. So what we need to focus on is refilling that glycogen tank, and we need to get in our carbohydrates. So simple rule of thumb, after your training, you're going to want 3 grams of carbohydrates to 1 gram of protein. So think 30 grams of carbs and 10 grams of protein. Something small, simple, easy. And then within an hour or two, you want to have a meal that is going to mainly have the majority of more of your carbs. So we're going to talk about eating for your fight and for sparring, right? So our sparring is training for our fight, and how we eat for sparring should mimic exactly what we eat for our fight. When we go to our fight and after weigh-in, when we step on that scale, that's not our end game, right? It doesn't mean that we pump the brakes and we get to relax and chill in terms of our eating. We still need to fuel appropriately for our performance. There we go. This means that we are limiting high-fat foods and we're not introducing any new foods. So all the foods that you should be trying for your gut, because remember, we have to train our gut too, those would be the same foods that you are eating for your fight. So if you are not eating out at restaurants for your sparring, we're not going to do that before your fight either, right? We have to mimic the same things so we know what's good with our gut and we know how we're going to perform in there. You don't want to have an ingredient that you've never had before and all of a sudden it causes GI distress and you're going into the ring and you're like, oh God, like I didn't even get hit yet and I don't feel great. So we want to make sure that we are at optimum levels, right? This is also getting in anti-inflammatory foods and antioxidants. Any training that we do causes inflammation in our body and oxidative stress. So if you have gears that have rust on them, they're not going to function properly, right? We have to make sure that we are cleaning those at all time. So this is getting in berries with polyphenols, this is getting in beets, ginger, turmeric, tart cherry juice, pomegranate juice. All those things are going to help us at that cellular level to decrease inflammation and oxidative stress. And then we want high carbs and we want low fiber. So this is going to change a little bit from your normal everyday meals. This is where you might want to switch out sweet potatoes for white potatoes, brown rice for white rice. And we have to be careful too, because if we are cutting our carbs during our training camp and we're not eating enough, then our glycogen stores are like way down here, right? And then after our weigh-in, we need to refill them all. So it's going to be a lot more carbohydrates if you are already cutting those carbs during fight week. We have to regain those as well. So that's gonna also be a lot of food. You can do simple juices and things like that too that aren't going to be so volume, as much of a big volume, but it's going to be a lot more than you think. Typically my average clients do from weigh-in until their fight, they'll get 900 to 1,500 grams of carbohydrates. So just think about that too when you're cutting those carbs during that week. It's gonna be a lot more food than you might think. So now at the cellular level, I'm gonna tell you, it's not like we talked about mental health the other day, it's not always what you see on the outside. I wasn't expecting this story to come about, but this is my personal story. This is a random picture from my Instagram because I wasn't expecting this. Apparently I was talking about pre-carbs before your fights. But anyway, so this is October 22nd. I had my annual physical with my primary care physician, and I knew he was going to draw labs. I sparred the day before. I had some really hard sparring, and I took some good liver shots, and I told my physician this, and I said, I didn't fast for my lab work because I think I need to give my body a day. And he's like, you're fine. I don't see any marks on you. You're good to go. You feel fine. I'm like, yeah. He's like, I'm not going to draw CKs and check for rhabdo. I'm going to draw your labs. So I'm like, all right. So I get this call the next day. As you can see, like the green is normal, and the yellow dot above was my lab work. So my labs, my liver enzymes went from 30, which is normal, to over 300. And my physician freaked out. And I told him, I said, listen, I told you, I'm gonna give myself a couple days, and I went back and I redrew them, and they all came back normal. So it's not everything that we see on the outside. It's not because we have a bruise or something hurts, but what we don't see on that cellular level is going to be really important for us to take care of in terms of recovery and getting back in that ring faster as well. So this goes along with your brain, right? Now your brain is mostly fat and water. Another reason why we need to stay hydrated and we need to have healthy fats. And when we are taking hits in that ring, if we are dehydrated, we are actually causing more damage to our brain as well. And this might not be like long-term effects, but this is compounded time after time. This can take effects on our bodies. So I'm gonna give you this little video here.
Okay, so we're gonna talk a little bit about your brain and hydration, because your brain is mostly water. Three brains here, right? I have a nice hydrated brain that's nice and soft. I have a semi-dehydrated brain, and I have a severely dehydrated brain here, okay? If your brain is dehydrated and you go into the ring and you get hit, you are to easily cause brain damage. If you're not fully rehydrated and you step into that ring, you are still going to cause more brain damage, and it's still going to be easier for you to risk brain damage. If you are fully rehydrated walking into that ring, every time you get hit in the head, you're going to have a little bit more extra give on your brain. Which brain are you going to want to walk out of that ring with?
Right. It's a very good visual, and thanks to my son who accidentally left his waffle in the oven that day. That's how that came about. But yes, we need to protect our brain. We need to not only stay hydrated, but we need to also focus on omega-3s, and that's not just going to be your salmon and your cold freshwater fish. Anytime we're getting hit to the head, we need to reverse that ratio in a 2-to-1 DHA to EPA ratio. We also need to get creatine. Creatine's not for your muscles. It also has neuroprotective properties in it, right? And adequate sleep. I am a part of the Ring of Brotherhood Foundation as well. Liza talked to you guys about that yesterday. So not only are we working on treatments after when we have CTEs and brain injuries, but we're also working on protocols and education to protect ourselves before and every day as well. So keep an eye out for that and check out their website. I'll put it on the last slide as well. So I've already told you that, like, you make weight in a scale, and then we still can't eat and go off the rails and go out to restaurants, right? Well, after their fight, I'm going to still tell you that we still need to take care of our body, because at that cellular level, we are still doing damage. So yes, we're going to have some bruises and cuts, but we live, right? And we keep going, but we need to work on hydrating ourselves and keeping our body functioning from that cellular level. So this means that we need to increase our protein. If you have a cut and your cells need to regenerate, right? You have to close that skin. That is all tissues that are regrowing. So we can see that, but the rest of mostly internal damage we cannot see as well. So we need to make sure that we are increasing our protein, we are staying hydrated, we are taking that omega-3s and reversing our ratio and getting in our creatine and magnesium. And this is where anti-inflammatories and antioxidants come into play. And I'm not talking about like, we're just gonna throw some ibuprofen at you. We're gonna get in our carbohydrates and our cherry juice and polyphenols and things like that to help at that cellular level. If you saw my liver enzymes just after getting taken hits, think of what your body's going to do if you go out and have some drinks afterward as well. So, yeah, it's probably not so good. So a little bit about dehydration. I'm going to talk about hydration. And then a little bit on supplements, and I promise I'll let you guys be done. But so dehydration, it exponentiates as much the more we are dehydrated. And we talked about yesterday with the physician that at about 5%, we're already starting to give you IV fluids in the hospital, right? And anything over 500 milliliters in IV fluid is actually prohibited and banned. If you are thirsty, you are 1% dehydrated. That 1% of dehydration causes a 5% loss of cognitive function. So think about that when you are rehydrating to get in that ring, right? Or just on your daily, every day. If you're thirsty, you're already way behind the 8 ball. So we need to make sure that we are staying hydrated. Now, hydration is not just water, but water helps. Well, your gut only absorbs 0.8 to 1 liter of water per hour. So it's not just going to be chugging water when you get to the gym. You need to start thinking about this as on your daily, every day is taking sips of water throughout the day. And then before your training, 17 to 20 ounces about 2 hours before. So when you are eating and having your snacks, make sure that you're getting some water in. And then 30 minutes before, you're gonna wanna have 7 to 12 ounces as well. So let's talk a little bit more about this sodium and your electrolytes, right? So I see this a lot at weigh-ins. I've seen the Morton salt container, and we're just like pouring it into little jugs, and there's a lot I see at weigh-ins. But if we add in too much sodium, which can be a thing, we are not only gonna be thirsty, but we are gonna cause issues with our brain. So you are gonna have confusion, irritability, altered mental status. You're not only that, you're gonna have problems with your performance. You're gonna have muscle weakness. You're gonna have hyperreflexia, unsteady gait, all just with too much sodium. And ultimately, this can cause seizures and coma. Now, the other way, if we are adding in just water, and especially if we are cutting sodium to try to get any water out of our system before weigh-ins, we're already behind the game. We are pouring in water, we are decreasing that concentration of sodium in our blood, right? So that's hyponatremia. So I've seen this a lot too with fighters who want to regain water weight to weigh more when they get in the ring. Now, first of all, that doesn't make sense to me because you're not gaining muscle mass, right? You're just going to slow yourself down. Plus, you're at a potential for hyponatremia. So this is going to decrease your energy and cause you to be fatigued. And it's also going to slow down, give you muscle weakness and spasms and cramping. And I've seen this multiple times when people just want to up their weight when they get in that ring. Now, Dr. Goodman talked a little bit about micronutrients and supplements yesterday, so I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I'm going to tell you that there are two nutrition labels or labels that you're going to see on foods and supplements. You are going to have your nutrition facts and you're going to have your supplement facts. Nutrition facts are food. Electrolyte actually falls under that food category, right? Foods are regulated by the FDA. If you have a supplement label, that is a supplement. They are not regulated by the FDA. Now hear me out on this because I have people saying, oh, I take this supplement and it's regulated by the FDA. It has an FDA stamp on it. I was like, no, it doesn't. The FDA will regulate the GMP or the good manufacturing process of that supplement. So it is going to go into that supplement manufacturing plant and it's going to tell you that their kitchen is clean, but it's not going to tell you anything about what is in that bottle or that powder or that container that you have. So if you are wanting 5 milligrams of, let's say, creatine, but what you're getting is 2.5 grams, it's okay because it's not regulated by a third party. So we need to know that what we are getting is what we want, and that is correct, that's on the label. Not only that, we need to worry about cross-contamination. So if you say you have an onion on a cutting board, a wood cutting board, right? And then you take that onion off, you wipe it with a paper towel, and then you put a piece of bread on there and you eat the bread's probably gonna taste like onion, right? So even though you've tried to clean it up, there's still some remnants left there that are going to be cross-contaminated onto that bread. And that can happen with your supplements as well. So we need to make sure they are third-party tested. NSF for Sport and Inform Sport are two easy ones. I know Dr. Goodman recommended a few yesterday as well. So ultimately, guys, it is your responsibility to know what goes into your body. So there are a few supplements that I do recommend, not only for boxers, but for the majority of us as well, that we might probably be deficient in, that we're not going to get in our food. The first one is going to be creatine. So creatine, there was just this recent study a couple weeks ago that came out from Australia that showed that two bodybuilding, but they creatine group and they had a non-creatine group, and they all gained the same amount of muscle mass. There was no difference with the creatine. Creatine is not going to make you big and bulky. It will hydrate your muscle cells, and it's going to have some neuroprotective properties to protect your brain. But creatine also takes ADP and creates ATP, which is the simplest form of energy that our body can use, and it's used for explosive power in our body, guys. So if you're a boxer, I think you're going to want some explosive power, right? So we should all be taking creatine. Creatine can come from your diet, but you will have to have 2.5 pounds of raw red meat in order to get that 5 grams of creatine that you're going to need from one scoop. So if you're not eating that in your diet, then you need to supplement, and that's where supplements are going to be appropriate. Most of the athletes are deficient in magnesium. So magnesium glycinate is what you are going to want. A lot of people will go for like the different options like magnesium citrate. Magnesium citrate is something that we use to clean you out for colonoscopies. So we don't want that. We want the one that's going to help us for muscle repair and recovery and sleep as well. The sleep is going to be a big important part of this, especially as if you are cutting weight. And omega-3s, I talked a little bit about that. They're going to help decrease inflammation, help your cardiovascular health, but they also have a lot of neuroprotective properties and are going to help with your cognition as well. Collagen is not just for your hair, skin, and nails and to look pretty as you get old, but collagen is going to help your soft tissues in terms of your joints and ligaments, so to keep them stronger. And if you are taking collagen and your joints and ligaments are stronger, if you do get injured, you're going to repair those and recover faster as well. Vitamin D, I already talked about it with fat-soluble vitamins. We need fats to take in vitamin D, so we need to make sure we have that. But vitamin D is also going to help us decrease inflammation. Now, if you are working out outside and you have the sun, I don't get the sun very often where I live, but if you do, then you probably don't need to supplement with vitamin D. But if you don't, then we need vitamin D to also help us with decreasing inflammation. And then ashwagandha is one of the newer ones. That is going to help decrease cortisol in our body. We all have that fight or flight response, and that is where we get that high cortisol level. So it's also going to help control blood sugars and help with your weight loss, and it's going to help your inflammation as well. So focusing on your nutrition, guys, and the small things that you do throughout the day, not just your training, is going to put you above the competition. That is really going to help you repair, recover, and perform better, and keep us in the sport for longer. And not only that, afterwards, we're gonna be in much better health as we age. And if we learn how to eat right, we're also going to be able to maintain that throughout the rest of our life as well. So this is going to create us into a really strong base, and we're going to create a nice forest of champions. If you have any questions, you guys can contact me. That's my information up there. I am on Instagram at mf.nuts. It's a little play on words. There's macros, fitness, and nutrition. Element did give us some electrolytes. So there are electrolytes back there by the water, so grab your sample pack. And give them a shout out and tell them thank you. And then Cherry Bundy also, so cherries, tart cherry juice helps decrease inflammation and also give you a little bit of carbohydrates, but also helps you sleep. And it's really great for post-recovery. So Cherry Bundy gave us all a 20% off coupon discount code as well for a one-time order. So thank you to them for helping support all of us, and thank you to the WBC for having me as well.
Sarah,
Yeah.
before you leave,
Yes.
I have a question.
All right.
In social media, this new term, intermittent fasting, is all over the place, right?
Yes.
And we both know a nutritionist is not the same as a health coach.
No.
This thing has been promoted by health coaches all over the last years. Do you recommend intermittent fasting? It is.
No.
I think that is very important for them to know.
Yes. No, I do not recommend fasting. And I'm going to tell you why intermittent fasting will work for you guys. Is because it is giving you a shorter window to get your calories in. So ultimately you are cutting your calories, right? Bottom line. But as athletes, like I said, we are continuing to deplete our carbohydrate stores and our energy throughout the day. So we don't want to wait till that low battery mode goes on and we have to plug in our phone. We need to continuously charge our body throughout the day as well. So intermittent fasting is not the way to go, especially for athletes.
Thank you.